Our first guest today delivered a poignant, moving speech last year at the CIBC Run for the Cure on the steps of Brock University's Cairns Hall. Her name is Laura Montgomery, a former Source reporter. Laura, 2018, your diagnosis, stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. A shock for you at that time.
It was a huge shock. I think the biggest shock was the day I found out that my ultrasound was concerning. From that point on, we had known that it most likely was going to be breast cancer. Definitely finding out that it was stage 4, though, that was a huge shock. Stage 4 is terminal. The average life expectancy is only 2 to 3 years. So we are 2 years into it now, and I'm doing as good as can be.
20 to 30% of people diagnosed with early stage disease will reoccur as stage 4 metastatic breast cancer.
In that speech last year, you were positive, you were strong. It was all about strength, really. That's what it was all about. And you said some very interesting things. You're beyond the pink ribbon is one thing that you said. Mm-hmm. And you said, don't call me a survivor. Why? Can you explain that?
I'll never be a survivor. I'll never be in remission. Remission isn't a thing for stage 4. Once it metastasizes anywhere in your body, so breast cancer most commonly travels to your bones, your brain, your lungs, and in my case, my liver, which is what I said in the speech. And so right now, there's no evidence of disease in my body, which is amazing, but it's still microscopically there. It will still come back at any time. We're hoping that it won't be for 10 or 15 years. There are what are referred to as the outliers who are living 10, 15 years without any progression. And that is thanks to the continued research and funding for research. There's 2 drugs that are new within the last 10 to 15 years that I'm on currently. Every 3 weeks I have an infusion of them, and that is so far keeping the cancer away.
Besides your speech last year, you've become a real advocate for breast cancer research. You step out there, social media, your Instagram account is just chock full of videos, images, pleas for people to donate. How do you keep up the strength to do that?
I knew nothing about breast cancer before I was diagnosed. When I found out that it was breast cancer, I said to my sister, like, that's okay, like, people don't die from breast cancer, but that's because you don't hear about it. Like, only like 5% of research dollars goes to stage 4 research. So we need more funding for that. You figure out stage 4 and no one dies from breast cancer.
How did you break the news to your husband and taking it to the next step to your children? You have 2 young children.
Yeah, so my husband, when I found the lump, I like to have a relaxing bath all the time. And so I was in the bath and I screamed for him to come upstairs, and I was like, feel this, what is this? That's not normal. And so he was aware from like that moment on that something was wrong, that it wasn't normal. I talked to my sister all the time, so I was messaging her when I found the lump, and it was telling my mom that was one of the hardest things to tell her. And then telling our kids was pretty difficult. Our daughter was only 2, so she didn't really understand it. So she's grown up knowing that her mom has cancer. My son was 5, and he had known about a close friend of my brother-in-law's who had recently passed away with cancer. So it was hard telling him that I have cancer, knowing that he knows that people die from it.
Do they understand now? Do they have a better understanding of this?
They understand that I have cancer. They understand that it could come back anytime. My son does understand that I could die from it, or most likely, I don't know if he knows I most likely will die from it, but he knows. He has brought it up before about talking about getting his driver's license, and he's brought up that I might not be the one to teach him how to drive. He's also talked about if I do die, and my husband's at work, who will look after him. So he is aware of it. He understands.
Princess Margaret Hospital was a big factor in your treatment. Mm-hmm. We have the Cancer Center here in St. Catharines. Why did you end up having to go to Princess Margaret for your specific treatment?
So I had my initial ultrasound done at a clinic here in Niagara, and they asked me to bring my results to the Cancer Center in St. Catharines. for further testing, so for a biopsy. That was October 9th, 2018, that I got those initial ultrasound results. So I took them to the hospital, and they informed me that I wouldn't have a biopsy date for till October 30th. So that's like 3 weeks. I wasn't okay with that. At that point, like, everything's going through your mind. You think the cancer's spreading like every day. You think it's getting worse. So my aunt actually had breast cancer 10 years ago. She had told me about the diagnostic center. They have a rapid diagnostic center at Princess Margaret for breast cancer. So I printed off the referral form online, picked up another set of scan results, brought them to my doctor to fill out, and then I mailed it off to them. So I heard from them very quickly. They said they schedule biopsies based on priority, and they called me the next day to come in. So then I knew it wasn't good. But I had a diagnosis and had met with my oncologist all before I would have had an initial biopsy locally. So that's what brought me there. I am receiving my infusions locally in St. Catharines, because every 3 weeks I have those. So we've coordinated through both hospitals to have my infusions here, so that I'm not driving to Toronto as often.
With all of your advocacy, with you being out front talking about this, what is the end goal? What would you like to see out of this?
Obviously, a cure would be wonderful. Not even if there isn't a cure, if we were able to make stage 4 metastatic breast cancer a chronic disease, something that I could just continue to take treatment for every 3 weeks, that's totally fine with me. It's the idea of it spreading at any time, having to go for scans, waiting for scan results, that is terrifying. So if we could make it a chronic disease and not a terminal one, that would be an awesome goal. But just more research and more funding into continued treatments that could make it a chronic disease.
What can you say about the help that you had at Princess Margaret?
They have been phenomenal. From my first appointment to my follow-up appointments now, they are compassionate and caring, and just the amount of detail they do on someone. I had a biopsy done, and then they had scheduled me for a breast MRI and a full body CT scan, which terrified me because that made me think that they thought it was elsewhere, which they didn't. But they were just being completely thorough to make sure that it hadn't spread anywhere else, or to see if it had.
What can you say to women who maybe, like you were 2 years ago, clipping along thinking that nothing's wrong, and not knowing that there could be something wrong?
Yeah,
what can you
I
say
would say be aware of your body. Do a breast exam the first of every month. If there's any changes, call your doctor. Don't take no for an answer. Don't let your doctor say that you're too young to have cancer. If you notice any like skin changing, any lumps, any dimpling, any changes at all, call your doctor.
Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.